welcome back to the If You Roll It, They Will Come podcast with your host, Martin Kratos. And today I have a pretty good episode for all of you guys. So this one takes place all the way back in March of 2020. And this is right before COVID hit. So this happened on the night of March 7th into the early mornings of March 8th. And if you remember, COVID shut everything down March 13th. So this was for me, one of the last big things I did, but there was another kind of thing that came after it. Because when COVID hit, I was all the way in Washington, D.C. But back to this story now. So this one happens on March 7th, early March. So on this particular day, I was going to go to a house party, and this was the first ever house party I was ever attending. And it wasn't really going to be a house party, it was more of a kickback, because it was with someone who I worked with. We're going to call her Mary. So Mary was the chick I worked with, and she was just throwing a little kickback with some of her friends. So she invited all of the people that we worked with, all the supervisors that end up at my work. She invited all of us, and then some of her friends from high school and stuff. So we all decide. So I'm going to this, and also there it is. It's Mary, David, Julie, and this other chick we worked with, Carissa. We're just gonna call her Carissa. So Mary, Julie, David, Carissa. Those are basically all the people that I know from work that are there, and those are basically the only people's names who I would know. And that guy showed up too. And this other guy we know, Evan, showed up later on, but I'll get to that. So I decided to head over, and I head over around 10 o'clock. So, pretty good time. And when I get there, there's not a whole lot of people there. Like I said, it's just a kickback. There was just one group of Mary's friends, and basically everyone who I'd work with was already there. So I would say there was maybe 10 to 12 people in this house right now. There was not a whole lot of people. So this is what I was expecting. And so, I get there. I say what up to everyone, and also, this is very important. I'm pretty sure, this was the first time I was ever drinking. I had never gotten drunk before this night. So that is also very interesting when you look at it this way, that this was my first time drinking in this sort of setting. Because this is not the type of setting you want to be for your first time drinking, and I'll get to that. So I get there, and I have one or two shots just to get the night going, and what were we drinking? I think we were just drinking Svedka. I think that's all she had for the alcohol. Oh yeah, but she also had Fireball, but I was not touching that because. Okay, yeah. Here's the thing. This was my first time getting drunk. I had taken a shot of something before, but I'd never gotten drunk. So I knew the taste of Fireball and I knew I didn't like it. But I've never that's why I didn't want to touch it. But I'd never gotten drunk because I would only taken one shot previously. I've only done that a couple times. So nothing that would actually get me fucked up. So on this night, I take a few shots, and then they have Julie lights up a joint. Then we're starting to smoke that, so I take a few rips off that, and then Mary brings out her bong, and then I hit that. So that was the first time I've ever hit a bong. That was pretty funny because I was still new to smoking, so I was still dumb. And as the night progresses or whatever, more of Mary's friends show up. So now there's maybe there's 20, not even 20 people. I'm going to say 16 people. Maybe there's 16 people in this house right now. And the night is progressing, kind of good. I'm taking a few shots here and there, and then smoking if they have shit, because there's everything I need. If there's Nick, they have Nick. If there was alk, we have alk still. If there's weed, we can light up. So I have stuff. I'm just chiefing off everyone at this point. I brought nothing to the table, and I was just chiefing off everybody. It was kind of great. Yeah. So, but then at one point, Julie's my boss, and she's only a few years older than me. She's maybe 3 years older than me, and I'm 18. So yeah, she was really young, and my manager, because that's how my just worked, because our fucking owner was a piece of shit. We getting back to this. So she wants to do a beer bong with me, So they have like a beer bong that is dirty. So they have one that has two on it, so you can do it with a person. It's like like a challenge, like a race one, you know. So we decided like we're not racing to do it, but she just wants to do it with me. So we like split a beer and we do it, and it was tough for me. Your boy had some trouble with it. I'm not gonna lie. I choked it down. Like I got it down, but it was a struggle. Here's the thing, right? Like if I ever drink, I don't like drinking beer or like White Claws or anything. I only like drinking like hard like vodka or like anything that like shots. Like shots I love. I can't do like beer and shit. I don't know like I don't like carbonation. Like I don't drink soda, so like it's fucking weird. So, but I was able to get this thing down. I was able to get that half beer down, and the night like progressively goes on, and then I want to say around 11 to 11:15. Like someone, one of Mary's friends leaked the address on his story on like Instagram, and around 11 to 11:15, people started to show up, and I know this at one point. This is what happened. So Carissa was at the door, and then she yells at Mary. She's like, there were people at the door, and then all Mary yells back is, let them in. And they all just come in, like, pretty quickly within that, like, 15-minute span. Like, I think I went upstairs, yeah. I went upstairs to go to the bathroom, and I was hanging out just talking with, David and, a couple of his friends that, like, he knew that were also there, just upstairs for a few minutes. And then like when I came back down, not even kidding, there was 75 to 85 people downstairs. This place was fucking packed. Like that they were like, we weren't really using the outside, like her backyard at all, which she did have a pool, but like we weren't using it. But like that area was completely filled up. Like this place was packed. It was fucking packed to the brim. Like we were all like, what the fuck is happening? Like I literally was like, what the fuck is that? Like when I went downstairs, I found Julie and who was with her boyfriend. I was like, what the fuck is happening? And she was like, I have no idea. And I'm like, oh my fucking god, because it was just insane. There were so many heads. So I'm walking around, and then I see Evan. Yeah, so I mentioned at the beginning, Evan, he was one of the other guys I worked with. He was there, so I start talking with him, and he gives me, like, I take a few shots of, like, Jack Daniels or whatever, because that's, like, what him and his friend brought. And then they had a joint, so I started smoking up with them for a little bit. And then after that, I don't really fully, like, know, like, this party is fucking insane. And then I know at one point I go over to, like, I play beer pong in like quotes. Like I walk over the table that was like set up for beer pong, and it was like Julie and her boyfriend and me and this random dude, and like we were kind of playing, but no one was really like fully into the game. But after that, I do know that Julie flagged down a guy who had a bottle of New Amsterdam, and I got a few drinks to that. I'm just trying to remember everything that this whole night is basically a blur up until one point, which I'll get to. But yeah, so like I'm trying to remember like what I drank and smoked, because like I was at a pretty good place. So like around like 11:45, I want to say, I went back upstairs, and I was just chilling upstairs with a little bit with like David and his friends, just all of that group again. And this time, like, Carissa came upstairs, too, with us, and, because, like, they were all hanging out. And around 12 o'clock, Julie and her boyfriend were leaving, because, I'm pretty sure Julie had work in the morning again, because that's how, like, my fucking place worked, piece of shit place, I know. So she had to dip, and, like, we said bye to her, and she was, like, and, one thing about her that was pretty funny that night is, like, she ripped her pants. I don't know what happened, but there was like a tear in her jeans, and it got like pretty bad at one point. Because like, and you'll find out why. I'll tell you why right here. So they're out in her car, and remember, this is a party with like 70 to 80 heads, and people are coming in and out of the house at this point, and it's pretty fucking loud. So I think you know where this is going. So me and David and all of his friends and Chris and them, we're all upstairs, and the next thing you know, the fucking cops are there. And because we're all upstairs, and like no one else is upstairs. So the way this works is you go upstairs, and to the right is the master bedroom, and to the left is like a room, and then a hallway with two other rooms. So we're all in the master bedroom, just chilling, hanging out, talking. And then the cops come. And when the cops come, you know, absolute hell breaks loose at fucking house parties. So kids start hopping the fence, kids start fucking leaving, because when the cops came, Mary was downstairs, and Mary was like had to there was one sober person at this party that was one of David's friends, and she was sober the entire night. Thank God for her. Because she was like the one that like answered or was the one that told Mary the cops were there and that Mary needed sober. Like Mary like was like that, like sober. And then what happened is they kicked like everyone out. Like the cops came into the house, which normally isn't supposed to happen when there aren't any parents there, because Mary was the only one home. So really the cops shouldn't have came in, but they did, which is really what caused a lot of this chaos. Because once the cops came in, a lot of shit, like hell broke loose. Because that's when kids started hopping the fence, kids just started sprinting out the door. Like they weren't coming to get any kids, but they were just trying to clear the place out. And that was like big, because like, you know, everyone freaked out. Once the cops stepped foot in the house, everyone's flipping their shit because everyone thinks they're getting arrested. Because, you know, there was like barely any, there was very few like adults there, right? Barely anyone over like the age of 21. Like the only people I think were over the age of 21 was like Julie, her boyfriend, like maybe a few other people, and like these fucking gangbangers from Sacramento, which I'll get into. But so everyone fucking dips from the first floor, and then we're all upstairs. And we're just kind of like, we all like literally are laying down pretending to be asleep. Like everyone's like, lay down, pretend to be asleep. And like, I remember someone's like in the bathroom. She has the door closed and like is pretending to be in the bathroom, like using it. And like, we're all like free, like just sitting there. And then the chick who's sober comes upstairs and she goes like, okay, you guys all need to clear out too. Because the cops were like, is there anyone upstairs? And then like, that was when she was like, shit, I got to clear them out. So she clears all of us out. And we all dip. And oh wait, there was one more chick that's with us. That's one that worked with us. I'm gonna call her or I'm just gonna call her Ashley. Yeah, her name is Ashley now. So we all walk out. We all walk out of the house, and there's like a bunch of cops. Like there was a good like 6 to 10 cops outside.
And what we don't realize until like after we get out of the house, and because Ashley tells us, her uncle is one of the cops. Like, no, her granddad is one of the cops. Like, he's the head police chief at this police station and in this town. So, like, when she's walking out, she has to keep her head down so, like, that she doesn't get recognized by her. It's not grandpa, it's uncle. I was right the first time. So she has to keep, like, her head down so, like, she doesn't get recognized by her uncle. And somehow she didn't get recognized, which is so lucky. Like, he probably wasn't expecting her to be there, which would, like, make a lot of sense. Because if you're not expecting someone, you're not going to look for them. But still, like, that could have been, like, really, really bad for her. But it was also kind of, like, a fucking funny-ass situation. So yeah.
And this is what kind of got me freaking out, because my car is parked outside in front of this house. So I'm like, oh shit, if they fucking take my plates, like I start fucking flipping out a little bit. And Julie and her boyfriend never left. They were like in their car, like preparing to leave, and the cops pulled up and they didn't leave. So like they're still there. So the way this chick's house worked was she lived in a cul-de-sac, but behind the cul-de-sac was this big like wildlife area, not wildlife, but wetland area, because in like the place where I live in, there's a lot of these like areas. So there was like a path behind her house, and there was like a trail. So like you could kind of walk away from her house, and then up the trail a little bit was a park, and the other way was a Topgolf. So if you went up the trail and to the right, you went to the park, and you kind of went towards the highway. If you went straight, you went towards a Topgolf. So, like, that's where a lot of the kids were running. Like, when we were coming out, there were still some kids hopping the fence, sprinting that way towards the Topgolf. And when we came out, we just came out and hooked a left and then just started walking down the trail. Because we were like, okay, we're just going to walk away. Because they're not doing anything. They're not arresting anyone. We just need to walk away. And I remember Carissa at this point was terrified. And, like, I was also, like, tripping a little bit, too. Because, like, at this point, you know, I still hadn't, like, this was my first time drinking. I wasn't smoking a whole lot by then. Like, this was maybe like my 5th time smoking at this point. I don't know. It was still early on. So like I was tripping out like a lot, because I was like, oh shit, what if they like take my place? What if they find out it was me? What if I like lose my scholarship to college? Blah 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 blah. What if all this? So like I was flipping my shit, being a little pansy. But like I was able to calm down a little bit, and like as we walked to the park, like this is like around 12:30. We walked to the park, and we just kind of sit there, and we're all just kind of talking, like, and there's these other kids that like just walked with us, and one of them was like a fucking freshman in high school, and I'm just sitting there, right, and I'm like, why the fuck is there a freshman from high school with us? I'm like, why the fuck is he at this party? I'm like, what the hell is going on? Because Mary was a senior, right? Like, this made no fucking sense. We were all like, what the fuck? Okay, whatever. Like, we were just like, whatever. It's like, kids are wild in these days. So that, like, whatever. And then Julie and her boyfriend decided to try to go to the Walmart that's across the like street. And they're like, okay, we're gonna go to Walmart and try to get us some like elk or something. Try to see if like, cause it was like they thought it was open, but this was like the big Walmart, so they were closed. And they closed at like 11 or 10. It was weird. They closed like kind of early, and it was only like 12:30, and they were like hoping it would be open, but it wasn't. So we're still sitting there, and I'm pretty sure at this table it was me, Carissa. He wasn't there. Yeah, because David wasn't with us, and neither was Ava or Ashley. So David and Ashley weren't with us. It was only me and Carissa and like these two random guys. I don't even fucking know their names. I'm not gonna give them names. But yeah, that's all I really remember. And then like we were sitting there for like a good hour and a half. Like, what was it? It was 12:30. Yeah, we sat there for a good hour and a half, 2 hours. We didn't get back to the house until like 3 because we were just waiting on Mary. So like when I went to that party, my plan was to spend the night. That was all the people's plans that I worked with, was to spend the night because Mary said we could. So like we were all planning to spend the night, and that was like that's what we were doing. So like I wasn't gonna go home. So like I had to wait for Mary to give us, like we all had to wait for Mary to give us the all clear to go back to her house, so like we could go to like sleep and shit. So like we were waiting at this park for a fucking while. I don't even know. Like we were just like you're just talking to pass the time, and it was like just trippy. Like because we could still see over there the cops, and at some points we could see the cops like with flashlights just walking up and down the trail, and we were like, what the fuck are they looking for? Because like they were just, I guess, looking for more kids and shit. But yeah, so like they were fucking doing that shit. It was fucking crazy as hell. And then around like 3 a.m., like Mary texted us and she's like, yo, you guys can all come back. So we all walked back down the trail, walked back into her house, and it's like, it's not a mess. All the bottles are on the counter, and it's just like, wow. And like, oh fuck. I am so sorry my alarm just went off during this. Oh, I feel so bad about that. But the bottles were all on the table, and it's just kind of like a mess a little bit. And like she tells us when the cops came in, she was like, are people drinking? And she was like, yeah, but like I told them I wasn't providing it. Like they all brought their own. Okay. And she was like, are people smoking? And then Mary said, like, not to my knowledge. And then when the cops walked in, they just started smelling, and they were like, smells like marijuana. And then Mary was like, oh really, it does? Like she like tried to play it off, like, what the fuck, it smells like weed in here. Wow, that's so weird, that's so interesting, knowing damn well like we were all smoking up in there. So like she tells us all that, and like we're all just sitting in like her kitchen area, like the dining room part of her kitchen, if you know what I kind of mean, next to the living room. So like we're all just kind of sitting there all in chairs, just kind of chilling. And this is like around 3:30 a.m. like at this point. And this is like, there was like maybe 8 or 9 people here. There is like all the people who I worked with, basically. Julie and her boyfriend had left at this point. And that is why, that's why Julie's pants had ripped bad, because they had ripped already and then they were leaving. And the cops came, and then she like stayed and helped us, and like it just got worse. But also with Julie, one thing that happened was her phone was stolen. So at one point she noticed her phone was stolen, and this is where we think it was those like gangbangers, because there was these like 2 other guys that stayed around at like 3 a.m. with us that were like really weird, and they were like older guys from like Sacramento, and like we just kind of like told them to leave at like 3, like after like 10 minutes of them just kind of sitting there. We were like, okay, yeah, you guys can like fucking leave now, because like none of us were comfortable with them there, and we're pretty sure they were the ones that stole Julie's phone. But when Julie sent her boyfriend back in to like grab it, he just grabbed her random phone, and then when he was like, here, and then Julie was like, that's not my phone, and he was like, okay, so just take it, and she was like, no. So then he just threw it out the window. Like he was driving away, and he just yeeted that shit out the window. I don't fucking know why, but he did. So yeah, but going back to what was happening, we were just like all sitting around in this kitchen just kind of talking, and then David just kind of goes, he just pulls out a joint and goes, yo, you guys want to smoke? And then we all just kind of look at him and are like, yeah. So it's like, we're all like just coming down. So like he pulls out this joint, we all light it up, we pass it around. You know, it was a good smoke for a good another like good little bit. We talked a little bit more. 4 a.m. rolls around and everyone's like, we're going to bed. There's these 2 other guys that were still there that were Mary's friends, and then they dipped then. One of them was like asleep in the chair like that whole time. Like he was like tripping. Like he was fucked up, bro. Like I think he might have took like a bar of Xanax. Like he kind of looked barred out. Not gonna lie. So he kind of like him and his friend took him. The freshman friend took him away, and they dipped. And so like we all kind of went to bed. It was 4 a.m. and then like 9 a.m. rolls around, and then like we're up already. Like 8 or 9 rolls around, and we are up and at 'em. So, oh, one more thing that happened. Fucking Ashley at one point in the night woke up and walked into my room. And like I very faintly remember this. Like I was half asleep at this point. Like she woke up, opened the door, realized it was in the wrong room, and then closed it and then walked back because she thought someone else, she thought Carissa was in the room I was in, but it was my room. So she like opened it up, said Carissa, and then I just kind of like, I didn't do anything. Like I just was just like half asleep. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then she was like, oh shit, and just closed the door and left. I do remember that happening. But yeah, so then like at 9 a.m. rolls around and we all wake up. And we just decided to head to McDonald's because that was going to have, like, greasy food will help with the hangover. Luckily, I didn't have a hangover. I don't know how in the world I didn't have a hangover. Probably because, like, all the alcohol was ran out by, like, 11:30, 11:45. Like, right before the cops came, the alcohol all ran out. So I think that's what kind of saved it, or saved me from not getting a hangover because I was still up for, like, another 4 hours. So we just go to this McDonald's. We feast, bro. It was great. It was good eats. And then like we go back to Mary's house because we're all going back so I can get my car and shit. And like we're all gonna dip. And like we walk into her house and we're like, oh my god, it just reeks of weed and the floor is sticky. Like the hardwood floor was like in the kitchen area, it was just sticky because of how much alk was there. It was bad. It was a war zone. And like the bathroom, oh my god, the downstairs bathroom near the kitchen was a mess. Someone did a line of coke off the fucking countertop in there at one point, and like I think someone just dragged mud in there because it was a muddy mess. It looked like someone shit themselves all over the thing, but it wasn't shit. It was mud from outside because like we could see the mud trail. But there was throw up in that bathroom. It was a fucking mess because people were yakking left and right. Like in my friend group, I know Carissa yacked. Actually, she might have been the only one that yacked because she can't really handle alk at all. I think she was the only one that yacked. But yeah, so like after that, I just dipped. I went back home because I was like, hey, I gotta go. I have like stuff coming up, and they were like, yeah, you like. I think I had worked in that later that day or something, something weird like that. But I was able to dip. I didn't have to worry about helping clean up. It was really just Mary and her like other friends, and like none of the work people helped her clean up. It was Mary and her friends that cleaned up. And yeah, so basically after that, I just went home and I chilled, and then fucking 2 days later, I was on a plane to Washington, D.C. for a broadcasting convention, and then fucking on a Friday, and then Friday the 13th hit, and everything fucking ended. So yeah, it was that was like the last big thing I did before COVID, and I think it's also pretty funny that like no one I knew at that point got COVID from that. Like that was a pretty fucking large event, and like, you know, COVID had been around for a few months, so like, you know, that was like a pretty prime hotspot. But like we all kind of lucky no one got sick, but also very surprising no one got sick because that should have happened in that area. So yeah, I hope you guys liked this video and this story time. Like and subscribe if you guys like this because new episodes are going to be coming out weekly. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.